Welcome to episode 5 of season 4. If you just joined, this is Maria from @Maria the Arcane on Instagram, and I'm joined by our supreme overlord-S, Robyn of A Tired Witch on Instagram.
I am the overlord. This is true. I wanted to take a moment. Well, we both want to take a moment to first and foremost thank all of our Patreon members. Without you guys, the podcast wouldn't happen. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
And to remind you that if you are in the podcast library tiering up, this month we will be joined on March 18th by John Tenney of Weird Lectures to talk about a whole bunch of different things. He's going to talk about the occult and weirdness and give us one of his amazing lectures that he's literally like world renowned for. So very, very, very excited for that. I think it's going to be great.
I'm very excited for it.
Yeah.
Also, I do want to say that with the spring equinox coming up, if you need any ideas on what to do or need some help with correspondences, I'm actually dropping an article. Well, it's going to be in our monthly outlook that we drop every month, but it's going to be like a little special, little extra thing in it. So
special
if you need
edition.
Ideas,
a seasonal edition.
I have it for you. Yeah.
If you've just joined us this week, every week we talk about upcoming lunar phases and how you can utilize that in your magical practice. So the nearest one from when this episode comes out is going to be on March 21st. It is the new moon in Aries, and I'm already braced for Maria to talk about how it's the greatest moon in the whole wide world.
Yes, it is.
I knew. As soon as I was like, oh great, here we go.
It is. I mean, it's my birthday. It's not too far away.
It's true.
Let's celebrate me. Just kidding.
I think that's a really good idea. And if you are listening to this, make sure to wish Maria a happy birthday around that time. It's not. You're welcome. The new moon in Aries is great because it is full of passion and enthusiasm, which is really, really good to apply and pair with a new moon because new moons are all about new beginnings, fresh starts, starting new things, right? So when we have this energy of passion and enthusiasm, and in some cases, sensuality, the new moon in Aries is a really good time to work on spell work that is going to be leading you to something very confident. I think it's a good time for glamour magic specifically because Aries are so confident. For my friends who are Aries that are listening, yes, I am dragging you. There is this like confidence and passion and just fire that Aries bring to situations, and when we have it paired with a new moon, it really kind of puts that fire under our ass to embrace new beginnings and new chapters with nothing but a head up. So I personally think it's a great time for glamour magic. That's my personal opinion. Or any kind of like confidence spell where you're just like gonna walk into a situation with your head held high, like already completely owning the entire situation. I think it's perfect for that.
Yeah, I completely agree, especially on the confidence thing. Like, I really think setting the intentions towards something you need to be more confident behind, and then doing the whole glamour magic for that. I mean, like wearing a dark red lipstick, wearing your power outfit, and then going out and whatever, like let's say at work you have gotten blockages and getting that promotion, this would be a great time to be like, no, I am the emperor, I am going to take over the situation and own it. So yeah, I totally agree. I think it's a perfect time for all of that. It is just, I don't know, just filled with that passion. And passion isn't always sexual. Passion is also like drive, creativity, all these sort of things that just light our fire, Yeah. So, if you just joined us for this episode or haven't listened to the episode so far this season, in lieu of choosing a card and discussing it like we have been doing, instead we're going by the different whole sections in tarot, like the major arcana, the minor, and then like the cups, swords, and all that. I think it's fun and it helps people understand tarot on a deeper level, and it helps us shake things up a bit. But anyways, so this week we are discussing our biggest thoughts on the Suit of Swords. I was going to save the suit for last, but I think wands would be perfect to talk about closer to the spring equinox. So swords deal with the element of air, which means knowledge, mental health, unseen influences, and communication. But we cannot disregard what a sword is for when it comes to Suit of Swords either. Swords are for fighting, taking charge, defending yourself. It represents challenges, surrendering, swift thinking, the things that hurt us, and even loss. Many readers have a difficult relationship with the Suit of Swords. You know, just like the weapon, you know, they are sharp, blunt, and often straight to the point, usually representing topics we want to shy away from, especially since sometimes the person who is pointing this metaphorical sword at us is ourselves. Cue the line, "Hi, it's me. I'm the problem, it's me." But we see this on cards like the 5 of Swords, 8 of Swords, 10 of Swords, and the Knight of Swords. And one huge thing the sword suit teaches us is to trust in ourselves and our abilities and knowledge, that we can take charge of situations and that we shouldn't like discount our own power. It is so easy to like pass the buck and hope someone else will do something for us, but the swords doesn't let us get away with that. You need to become your own savior. You need to stand up for yourself, and you need to fight back. We see this on cards like the Ace, the 2 of Swords, the 8 of Swords, the Knight, the Queen, and even sometimes, depending on the circumstance, the 7 of Swords. Now, pain, sorrow, and loss and devastation isn't sugar-coated on the suit in tarot. It truly like doesn't let you toxic positivity your way out of painful situations. It makes you look at these harsh emotions in the eye so you can deal with it rather than sweep it under the rug. So those painful moments don't become anchors, but rather something to help sharpen your blade with, just like our Queen of Swords has done. We see depictions of these rough emotions on cards like the 3 of Swords, 5 of Swords, 6 of Swords, and the 10 of Swords. Now, speaking more on dealing with the tough stuff, these cards also let us know that it's time to recoup after a difficult period. While it is necessary to deal with the tough stuff, it can easily lead to being overwhelmed and burnout. Cards like the 4 of Swords and once again the 5 of Swords, 6 of Swords tell us it's time to rest, regroup, and figure out our thoughts in an ultimately healthy way. Sometimes, though, walking away or resting isn't an option. The swords also remind us that we are allowed to fight back when like situations call for it. We don't have to just sit back and deal with the blows. Sometimes we have to be sneaky, as seen on the 7 of Swords and the Queen of Swords with her wit. Sometimes brute force is more of the answer, as seen on like the Ace and the Knight of Swords. But last but not least, knowledge and logic play a major role in the suit. I really feel like the swords is like chess. Sometimes you need to play the long game, exercise strategy, and our stores of knowledge to overcome obstacles or even to create something. Unlike the Knight of Swords, who rushes into things to tackle them, like cards like the 2 of Swords, the Page, and the King tell us not so fast. They represent planning, pros and cons lists, reminds us how smart we are in our own unique ways and how we should use that to our utmost advantage, and taking the slow route to guarantee success. How do you view the Suit of Swords, Robyn dear?
First of all, I am once again at a point where I have very little to add to what you've said. But I will say that I deeply feel that the Suit of Swords is wholly misunderstood. There is a lot of interpersonality that comes with the Suit of Swords, where in some suits things are put upon us I feel as though the Suit of Swords, we are putting it upon ourselves. And because of that, while things might look bad or dire, even in cases like the Three of Hearts, where we're dealing with things like Three of Swords, we're dealing with things like heartbreak, right? Simultaneously, our pain is real, but our reaction to it is in our own control. So there is this kind of, I don't know, misunderstood air that comes, I feel like, with the Suit of Swords, where I feel like we actually have a lot more control of the situations than they necessarily look first brush. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. I think it goes back to the whole thing. Hi, I'm the problem.
Yeah, it's me. I'm the problem. Yeah. And so I just feel like it's a very deeply misunderstood suit. And I feel like oftentimes when people see the any sword card come up, they're like, uh-oh. And it's like, well, yeah, uh-oh. But, you know, we are the problem and the solution. So how do we fix it? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, you see that like on the Eight of Swords, like where someone tries to be blind to the situation, but there is a way out of the situation. They just don't want to see it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Or even like you have the Nine of Swords where we have this kind of nightmare situation. Well, nightmares are exactly that. They're in our brain. They're nightmares. They're not real. They're not necessarily based in reality. And nightmare is a feeling, not a reality.
Yeah.
That's why we have...
Sorry, go ahead. I was just going to say...
we have expressions like, this is my nightmare, because this is the worst thing you've imagined, not that it's necessarily rooted in reality.
Yeah. And I also, like, mental health plays a very big role in the swords, and I feel like a lot of, you know, mental health struggles are without, like, outside of our control, but, you know, obviously there's methods to help deal with it and all that, but, you know, some
so like
mental
actually
health
using mental health as a great example, take something like chronic depression, right? As something I suffer with. It is out of my control when it starts, and even being in it. But what is in my control is the coping skills that I use to get through it, knowing who my safe people are to talk through things, etc. So while it's out of my control, I do have some things that I can have control over to help it. It's not going to make it go away. It's not like I can just say, well, I've decided I'm not depressed anymore. But there are choices we can make that are our own choices that will help us out of it, and help at least alleviate some of the issue. And I feel like that's why this suit is so massively misunderstood, because I think a lot of people, whether they want to admit it or not, don't want to admit that they're maybe the problem. And it's a hard pill to swallow. I don't blame them.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Spring has sprung, sort of.
Sort of for you. It's in full blown here.
Well, not really at all for me. I'm under a foot and a half of snow. But regardless, okay?
One second. You're under a foot and a half of snow. I'm under a foot and a half of pollen. Like, it's gross out there.
I wish that was me, babe.
It's so disgusting.
Honestly, I would be getting, like, the allergy version of the Depot shot. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
They have it. It's like an allergy shot. I'd be getting that, like, every 4 weeks. I would rather pollen. Anyway, regardless, spring has sprung. Whether you're under a foot of snow like me, or you're under a mountain of pollen like Maria. And because of that, what happens when spring springs? Spring rings? Is that the pagan festivals start? We have things like Renaissance festivals that I know a lot of people are into, but there is specifically pagan festivals where we have these massive events and gatherings. Sometimes they will last for a whole weekend. Sometimes they'll be a one-day thing. And Maria and I thought that we would take some time today to talk about the good and the bad that comes with these, and just ways to kind of protect yourselves. If you've listened to season 1, we have talked about it in the past, but that was also pre-COVID.
I think we recorded it, and like the next year, like everything shut down. So it was like, useless.
It was pre-pandemic. So we figured we would kind of touch back on this because we've had the pandemic, this is also probably one of the first years that a pagan festival might be opening up in your area since you have discovered witchcraft, because a lot of people got into witchcraft in 2020. We had more time to explore ourselves at home. So that being said, Maria, do you want to start us off? What is something that you love about pagan festivals?
I love the different like small business shops that they usually have set up. Like there's so much variety and like things like, okay, back in the day, it was really easy to find like these things on Instagram and like, but now even on TikTok, it's hard to find like this wide range of like pagan and like spiritual like tools. And ours is always it's like
just
a
in general
flea market. Yeah, a huge flea market just for witchcraft stuff. It's so nice, and there's usually like a few like thrifting places, so you'll find stuff for like dirt cheap. I literally bought oh my gosh, it's a pretty tall cauldron. I got it for $5, and I got
amazing. Oh, I remember that. I remember when you got that.
Yeah, and I got 2 antique lanterns from a pagan festival as well, and I got those for $13. I mean.
What a steal.
It's so great. Like, and they usually have like brooms and like the really fancy ones, like, so you don't have to get them shipped, which is usually like expensive to get them shipped and risky. Yeah. But yeah, it's just really nice to see all the different witchy small businesses in one place.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so we'll go back and forth. What's another good thing that you like? And I do have one more good thing I want to say after you're done.
Speakers, presentations. You think about, I don't know if any of you listeners have ever been to other festivals like Pride Parade or, God, my reference of festivals that aren't pagan are really just something. I've got Pride Parade and then I have Folsom Street Fair. I'm from San Francisco.
Pride and domination.
Both of those examples. You have usually things like a center stage, right? And like in Pride Parade, you would have things like performances or like music performances, or like I know some years we've had like poetry performances and just dance performances, etc. At Folsom Street, there are other things. I'm not going to get into it. If you don't know what that is, Google it. Unless you're a minor, do not Google it. And in pagan parades or festivals, you also have usually a center stage as well. And you'll have people that are like local-ish, at least, authors that have written these incredible and amazing books that maybe you've never heard of, or they lead groups or are coven leaders, etc., that will read excerpts from their book. They'll give demonstrations. They'll tell you about their clubs and things like that. And I think it's really cool. And then you have the other side of it too, where they've got like drum circles and all these just really cool like visual performances as well. And I think it's really cool, and it's a really good way to not only learn about new names that you've never potentially ever heard of, but also get like learn that maybe a author that you really like lives nearby you and maybe understands kind of your life experience a little bit more than you had previously thought. And I think that's cool.
Yeah, I agree.
Go on, what's your other one?
My other one is kind of actually on the same thing as you, because we usually have group spells at ours, like a group ritual where you're allowed to come join in. And I don't know, it's just really nice for all the togetherness. Like everyone kind of migrates to the middle of the festival, and like there's usually a bonfire in the middle, and they do something. And it's, I don't know, it's a lot of fun just like doing something with a group occasionally. Yeah.
I think it's really fun. I think it's really cool and fun, and I don't know, I really like it. I think that it's great. Makes me happy.
Yeah, so go for the shopping. Go for the shopping. The speakers.
Performances.
Is there anything else that you like?
Like going off the speaker thing, there's also like workshops sometimes.
There are workshops. There are workshops at mine.
if you look up your local pagan festival, see if they have a website, a Facebook page, anything. Typically, they'll have like a calendar on there or like a time stamp thing that's like, the west end of the festival, we are going to have this workshop on this thing at this time by this person. And you can like go learn how to hand dip your own candles, spell candles, or, learn how to set up your first altar by somebody. Like, you know what I mean? There's a lot of different things that could happen. I saw one once that they taught you how to make your own drum using like hide, like from the beginning. How to get the hide, how to soften the hide. It was really cool. So there's a ton of workshops that you can look up that are they're cool. You should get out there. And especially if you're somebody who perhaps got into witchcraft during the pandemic, like we both said, which a lot of people got into. The online occult world is nothing like the real life occult world. It is a lot less vitriolic. It's a lot more welcoming and warm, in my experience at least. You get a lot less of people kind of trying to punch down at you, in my opinion. And I just don't think it can be matched and compared to being online only. And so I think you should get out there if you can.
And this also, pagan festivals are usually pretty family friendly. Like they usually have some activities for littles. So if you want your littles to be more involved, with your family's practice, this would be a great time to do that. And then also like networking. If you're a business witch, this is a great time to network with other businesses and to form like really strong relationships with other businesses in the area. Yeah, 1,000%. So then now should we get to the ugly?
Then that leads us to the less good part of pagan festivals. There's a lot to unpack here.
A lot.
I think it's important that we state that this is going to be said through experience. And so, don't go into something expecting the negative. Instead, go to it armed with knowledge, so that way in the event that something happens, you're just a little prepared. Because circling back to if you've only gotten into witchcraft on the internet or during the pandemic, some of these things that happen in real life, which are, old dog whistles, we'll call it, perhaps you've missed because you've been online and you've been in a very kind of insular situation, which is not a dig at you by any means. It just, sometimes these things happen in a different way that becomes a little bit harder to discern if you've never been in these scenarios. So, Maria, why don't you start us off with the first and biggest problem in my opinion, probably yours too, which is white supremacy.
Oh my gosh. Especially here down south, we have a big white supremacy problem, of course. And that still they do come to like our pagan festivals because they are pagan. Like they usually are like the Norse, but the kind of like warped
not
thing,
to say that all Norse pagans are
that's why I said warped.
I'm not saying Maria's saying that. I just I don't want anybody to hear that and then think that that's what we're saying. That's not what we're saying.
No. But yeah, they can be, I don't know. Every time I've experienced them, they've kind of stayed off and away. And did their own thing and kind of looked down their noses at other people. But they're still there, so you have to be careful about who you're talking with and things like that.
So there's a few things to look out for specifically when we are talking about white supremacists in the pagan sphere. Runic symbols are not inherently a racist thing to see at all. Runes aren't inherently racist at all. They aren't inherently racist in the slightest bit, but there are runes that are racist. So while runes are not inherently racist or dog whistles by any means, there are certain runes to look out for. And we actually had a really amazing class by Warrior Witch Nike where they talked about intro to Norse paganism, and they did a whole section on dog whistles, which is amazing. It is on our Patreon if you want to look it up. We'll probably do something to align with this episode to just show stuff anyway. But in case you want, a little bit deeper situation there, it does exist. So things to look out for, obviously, are things like the SS symbol. Obviously, we should all by now know that SS is a Nazi symbol. But there are also different runic symbols. I unfortunately don't know what all of them are called, but what I do know is that there's one, the Othala rune. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's the Othala rune that kind of looks like a pointing up fish. And then they add a little tail at the end of it. That also points up. So it's the one that looks like an upward fish. Again, just because there's an Othala tattoo does not mean somebody is necessarily a white supremacist. So we need to consider the context with things that come with it. Do they have other things like a black sun on them? Do they have an SS symbol? Do they have the Iron Cross? These are all symbols to be looking out for. There is also the alges symbol that has, again, alges is not a symbol in and of itself of white supremacy. It's the one that looks like a Y, but the center continues like a tree branch kind of pointing upwards. But it's got like the fern around it on the outside. So that's something to look out for, and just kind of look at all these things with the context of other things that are happening. If you see things like Wolves of Vinland on somebody, they're a white supremacist. That is a white supremacy organization. Here, like down south, you can tell 100%, especially when you're walking through the parking lot, because they'll have like a Trump thing and then they'll have a bunch of Norse symbols on their car as well. So that's kind of like, like flashing lights, like obviously, white supremacist. It should be. It should be at least, but who knows? Maybe you are totally just new to all of this and that is not your fault, which is why we're talking about it. Other things to look out for, 88 is another symbol of Nazism, white supremacy. So these are the things generally to look out for. Again, we have a far more in-depth version of this on Patreon, but paired with this episode, I will be making an infographic just for some of the things that we've touched on. It's important to know that this is a problem. Paganism has a white supremacy problem. We just do. It's unfortunate, but part of how we start to get it out of our community, in my opinion, is by informing ourselves of what to look out for so we don't fall down the accidental alt-right pipeline.
And I think it's also important, now that we're talking about white supremacy, when you go to a pagan festival, it's going to be very white. Like,
oh yes,
very white. There's rarely any like people of color like that have booths and stuff.
And to be fair, who fucking blames them when we have people like white supremacists allowed in the event? That's a whole other fucking thing to dissect. But I can't blame them.
Yeah. But I will say I have seen an increase of people in color and more diverse faces like every single year that I go. So
yes, I would agree with that 100%.
It is improving.
It is improving. And part of how that continues to improve is that we make ourselves very aware of this predatory, insidious part of our culture, because that's what it is. It's a part of our culture, and pretending like it's not makes the issue so much worse. Pretending like white supremacy is not a problem in paganism only allows white supremacy to grow and become an even bigger problem. So I think addressing the elephant in the room is probably one of the most important things that we can do.
Want to talk about the other big thing?
Yes. Predators.
Well, okay. I also wanted to bring up the which they are predators, the pagan cults that are usually there.
That's exactly what I was going to talk about, the predators.
Well, there's also regular predators there, which we'll talk about later.
But I feel like if you're going to go to any kind of festival, like it doesn't matter if it's pagan or not, there's going to be predators there. You should know that. That's just a being safe in 2023 situation. Assume there's predators everywhere in terms of like SA, sex trafficking is at an all-time high in our country. Like, so pagan prides aside, please just be safe out there.
Go with a group of friends. Go with your family. Use basic
discernment when we're in these sort of things and keep yourself safe. So that wasn't the kind of predator I meant. Please explain the kind of predator that you mean, Maria.
So, okay. They usually have booths set up, and they're just handing out all these like brochures about joining their coven, and there's always an order. There's typically a cis white man on top of said order who calls himself a priest, and he is followed by a long line of priestesses. So yeah, they just go around and they try to be like, this will be, a place for friends where we can get together, and it's not. It
never is.
It's a cult.
This isn't to say by any means that any kind of ordered covens that have a priest and a high priestess, for example, like you might find in Wicca as a great example, is predatory. No, by no means saying that. However, First thing, if you're listening to this and you're a minor and an adult has invited you to a coven scenario, get out of there. Like, call your mom, call your dad, call your trusted support person, because no legitimate coven would invite a minor to come and do coven activities with them without a parental guardian. Period. Like, they just wouldn't. In fact, I was working on a book recently where I was touching on this, and I actually reached out to a handful of my friends who are in like hierarchical pagan groups and confirmed this, that I wasn't talking out my ass, and they all, who have no relation to one another, said the same thing. If you are a minor and they are inviting you to these situations, like, this is trouble. Get out.
Yeah. I also find, like, if it's Wiccan based, like, they're way more, like, you have to be invited by a friend, basically. Like, this is more like, we'll accept anybody. And they're very aggressive. Like, it's like a salesman where they try to keep you there and they just keep talking to you until you agree to, like, come
1,000%
to their event.
Now, that being said, there are covens that come to this thing where they are looking for new faces. But what they'll do, in my experience, is not invite you to their coven, but instead invite you to, hey, we're having a public group gathering. Drum circle.
100%. Yeah.
Where it's an open invite to anybody. And then if you continue to show up to their events and have interest, you then might get an invite for something further. But that is kind of showing a commitment and an interest that is a trust that you build with that coven over time. That isn't something that they're just going to say, please join our coven.
Yeah, well, that, and you usually, like, the predatory ones usually are like something, the order, like, not like, come, join the witches community of Columbia. Like, it's very, the names are very, you can tell the difference between like coven, cult.
Yeah, it's a cult. Call your dad. It's one of those situations where really trust your gut on this. If it feels too good to be true, it is. It just is. I am saying this with nothing but love in my heart, but you are not special. They want you for something, and usually it's money.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. They're like, by the way, there's $100
coven
entry
fees. And so usually it's money. Sometimes it's stuff that's more insidious, but usually it's money. So just take it with a grain of salt. True people that are looking for a new person in their coven they're not gonna have a flyer. So
no, they're gonna be way more like
subtle,
as I said, friend of a friend
in the true idea of what a coven is. These are people that you are trusting with your power, with your sacred ceremonies, rituals, with your like sacred group rituals. Like this is a very like close, tight-knit. We don't talk about what happens in coven outside of coven. They wouldn't just be making a flyer to invite anybody, though they might make flyers to invite to public group gatherings that are not coven related. It's just 100%. Coven's hosting something, and those are cool. Go to those. Why not?
Especially if like it's a community event, like a full moon thing. Those are so much fun.
So much fun. But know the difference and be prepared for it. So just something to consider.
Say no to the cult.
Don't join a cult. All right. Well, I think we had a touch base on everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we did really well.
Perfect.
Yeah. So, Robyn, what is stirring your cauldron right now?
Thank you so much for asking.
Oh, you're so welcome.
The CHANI app. CHANI Nichols is an astrologer. I talked about her a bunch on the Discord. I'm obsessed with her app. It's an astrology app, right? And they have like a free version and a paid for version. I do the paid for version because I'm psycho. No, it actually is just that good that I feel like it's worth it. And it does like your daily astrology, right? But then it also tells you like the moon phase that we're in, the moon sign that we're in. I think that that's all you get if you do the free version. And maybe you get like the weekly forecast as well. But if the paid version, which is what I have, has like an affirmation of the week, a tarot card of the week. It has a reading for you for the week in terms of like your personal astrology, journal prompts, guided meditations, altar suggestions, rituals, and then does your like personal transits. And I've been like, I check my transits literally every day. I'm obsessed with it. It's so good. It's been so on point. I'm obsessed. So
I'm downloading it right now.
Yeah, if you're an astrology girly like me, I love it. I'm totally obsessed with it. I really am. And this is like, I think she's kind of big. I don't listen to her podcast, but I know it exists. And I think she's big. So I just want to preface, this is not like an advertisement that we've been paid for. I've been I pay for this genuinely. And I've been using it for like the last 4 months. And I'm just completely obsessed. Nike actually gave me a recommendation for it.
Oh.
Obsessed.
Nike just coming in and helping on this podcast episode. Honestly, in spirit.
I'm going to tag Nike in the caption. Oh my word.
Nike was with us in spirit.
In spirit. But yeah, I'm totally obsessed. I think it's so good. I think that if you have the affordability to pay for it, you should. Because in my opinion, in terms of like astrology, like specifically, it's the only astrology app that I paid for that I have actually felt like I'm getting my money's worth.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to do it.
So, Maria, what's not stirring your cauldron this week?
Oh, let me tell you. So, if you've been buying tarot decks lately, especially from indie people, you've probably realized that there has been a ton of delays. Like, it just, like, a date will be given and then it'll just get pushed out. And this is not the tarot, like, or the divination decks, like, creators' fault necessarily, because it's the whole shipping process right now. And unfortunately, a lot of indie people go with buying, like printing their decks in China because it is cheaper for in most cases. So they have to wait for it to, there's so many delays right now with China and things like that. So we're already experiencing that in other areas of our life. But when it comes to like small businesses, like those get pushed out even farther, like for development and shipping and all that. And I want to remind people to be very kind to tarot deck creators right now. Like they literally have no say right now over when they're going to get their decks, and they keep getting like different dates and stuff. It is not their fault. I mean, I do think right now tarot deck creators should probably not be giving dates anymore until they have a deck in hand and be like, okay, now we're going to start shipping things out. But unfortunately, I know they want to keep people like informed of the dates they are receiving, or they're getting their own hopes up, and it's just a whole mess. And I feel really bad. But I'm like waiting on 2 Kickstarter decks that, just are taking forever because of shipping delays.
Ugh, terrible.
So bad.
If you've just joined us this week, every week we talk about creators that we are loving right now. This can be anybody from an author, podcaster, social media account, just anything that we found that we're loving right now. These are not advertisements. These are just things we've organically found that we are loving. And this season we have added follower recommendations. So if you are somebody who follows us on social media, or even if you don't follow us on social media, but you really, really, really want us to hear about something, you can email us at submissions@coffeeandcauldrons.com. And we are not going to promise that we're going to share everything that has been sent to us, but we are sharing, some stuff that has been sent to us that we totally vibe with. So that said, Maria, who are you loving right now?
So I was going to do one thing. Now I'm going to do another. I recently bought the Alice and Wonderland Tarot deck, and it is so very, very cute and very pretty. And I love all the colors. And if you love like very floral stuff and want a good spring deck, I think it is perfect. I really love it. And luckily, oh my gosh, who makes it again? The Inside Editions? Yeah. If you've gotten their previous decks, these cards are more like the Hocus Pocus one. They're thinner and they're easier to shuffle, unlike the Labyrinth and, oh gosh, what's the other one I have? I don't know. But they're not as thick and they're not as matte. So yeah, I highly recommend checking them out because they are super duper cute.
So
you've been loving.
So I think I've talked about this shop before in the past, but Lady Moon Co. I think I did a few years ago because she sent me the tarot deck that they had done of the sirens, but she sent me their Croc charms, some of their Croc charms, because as we know, I'm a Croc mom. My golf Crocs are just demonias for moms. Change my mind, you can't. And I'm obsessed with them. They're so cute. And like I went to her website and because I was going to buy more, and she has like full sets of like practical magic, the craft, just like things that are witchy, like Ouija board ones and stuff. So fucking cute. So if you are trash like me and you have Crocs, you should check them out. They're really, really cute. Like I really, really like them.
You couldn't catch me dead, but the charms are super cute.
I will literally buy you a pair of Crocs for your birthday. I had something else I was going to get you for your birthday, but maybe I'll throw it out. Maybe I'll just get you some Crocs. No. And you're going to put them on your feet because you're going to be like me, who's like, I'd rather fucking die.
Scarlet has a pair, and I put them on like when I go outside and take up the trash. Don't like them.
Okay, well, it turns out that you're a liar. That's crazy. Anyway. Who is our listener-submitted creator?
So our listener said anything Claire Goodchild, which Fair.
Reasonable.
Reasonable. But I do want to point out that she has a new book coming out that looks really good. She has the Ancestor Book coming out, which teaches you how to form a relationship with your ancestors and just about, honoring them. So I'm very excited about that, and it looks very good. And she's like doing this whole 100 days of ancestor work thing. So if you follow her on Instagram, you should definitely check that out.
Yeah. Very cool. Thank you all so much for joining us today. We hope that we will see you again on Friday, March 17th for our next Coffee Talk episode, or on March 24th for the 6th episode of Season 4. You can keep an eye out on our social media or head to our website, coffeeandcauldrons.com, to find out more information and see what we are up to. And don't forget to join us on Patreon March 18th for Occult Freak Boy and my biological father, John E.L. Tenney, for one of his world-famous weird lectures for the library tier and up. If you can't make it but would like to join us, the recording will be available a few days later for the rest of Patreon history.
And additionally, our Patreon Magical Beginnings offers our special 25-minute part 2 episode, a huge library of articles about witchcraft, a Discord community full of fun events and discussions. And we even have a tier that offers one-on-one conversations with Robyn and myself.
So please, if you are loving our sexy, sensual, just chef's kiss voices, take a moment to review us on whatever streaming service that you are tuning in from, such as Apple Podcasts or Spotify. We love reading your reviews, and rating us 5 stars helps us to be seen by others. Thank you to everybody who already has rated us, and for everybody who will in the future. We appreciate you.
So again, this is Coffee and Cauldrons
with Robyn from At a Tired Witch on Instagram.
And I'm Maria from @Maria the Arcane on Instagram.
All right, you ready?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Bye, witches!